It's been another big 24 hours in racing news, so let's talk about some of the things that are happening within the world of racing. We're going to be talking IMSA in this video, we're going to be talking NASCAR in this video, and we're going to be talking about the Indianapolis 500 and McLaren. Yeah, I know, shocker from this channel. Let's get into it. And we start out by talking about testing for the Rolex 24, which is already getting hot and heavy. Of course, the race takes place at the end of January, and anybody who thought Jimmy Johnson wasn't serious about the Rolex 24, you've got another thing coming. He has already been pounding the ground in the number 48 Ally Bank Cadillac, the association between Action Express Racing and Hendrick Motorsports. Great looking car. Always love when you get some purple on a race car, especially one that's as fast as a Cadillac DPI. I certainly think that this particular entry, while it is a one-off, judging by the fact that they are testing this early, says to me this is a very serious program, and I think this car is a serious threat to win the Rolex 24. Of course, we'll be covering this race on the channel, so be sure to subscribe to this channel for that coverage, and certainly Jimmy Johnson is going to be one of those stories that we will be following very closely, and an all-star cast of characters in that car as well, including Kamui Kobayashi, Mike Rockenfeller, and Simon Pagenaud. Oh yeah, I think it's going to be running up front. And I hate to say I told you so, but the dominoes have begun to fall in terms of auto racing in California. Yesterday, NASCAR confirmed that the Fontana race at Auto Club Speedway for 2021 has been canceled. And like I said in the Long Beach video, this may end up applying across the board for every major racing series in California. In fact, Racer Magazine had an article just today talking about Long Beach, and they actually had a quote from the head of the Long Beach Grand Prix Association, and it was pretty obvious that they're already looking at backup plans. I would be unfortunately pessimistic on that at this time. We'll have to see how things go, but it looks like the California lockdown restrictions are going to continue for quite a long time. Now, NASCAR did not just allow a cancellation headline to be out there. They also announced that the replacement for the canceled Fontana race is the Daytona road course. Now, there's certainly a lot of things to say there, and I will talk about that in just a second, but there is some light on the horizon when we're talking about Fontana and NASCAR in the future. Adam Stern reported that NASCAR will actually return to the 2-mile layout in 2022. So construction on the half-mile short track looks almost certainly like it has been delayed. And at the very least, the 2-mile Fontana track will get a final race after all. And actually, I'll be perfectly honest with you. With the restrictions in California and the uncertainty going forward, especially with the fact that presumably, if everything goes to plan, the 22 Fontana race will be run with the NASCAR Next Gen car. So I'm beginning to wonder, again, it's just kind of a thought right now, but there have been plans in the past to change tracks or modify tracks or bulldoze tracks, which end up getting delayed and then eventually canceled due to extenuating circumstances. I just wonder, again, I'm going to keep this in the back of my head, I wonder if the short track plans at California may eventually quietly go away, especially if the product is good and it's well received by the fans with the next-gen car on the 2-mile track. But then again, there's all the rumors and speculation about California short track becoming the season finale going forward. Would NASCAR put the 2-mile track as the season finale? Is there any scenario that would happen? I don't think so. Here's another point about this, and it's a knock-on effect of going to the Daytona road course. That in and of itself isn't that bad. I know some people very upset about 7 road courses on the calendar for next year in the Cup Series, but here's the really bad thing. Remember what I said about the Clash last year. The worst part about the Clash is the fact that it became a glorified test session for the Daytona 500, because of course the biggest and baddest teams were getting 70-some laps to simulate what it would be like to run on full tanks in the Daytona 500, run in traffic in the Daytona 500. Totally extra testing miles, essentially free testing miles that they get because they get to run the Clash. Well, after the complete bleep show we saw with the Clash, NASCAR saw the same thing that normal, rational, sane people saw, which was that the Clash, something needed to be done. NASCAR decided that they were going to move the Clash to the road course. Okay, great. That's perfect. That means there will no longer be that stipulation, that pressure for the teams to try to prepare for the Daytona 500 because it's no longer taking place under the same conditions as the Daytona 500. Well, now you've got a regular season points-paying race, which may, if you win it, or if you bring a really good car there, you could put yourself into the playoffs for the end of the season. So now, suddenly, the Clash is right back in the position it was before, which is that it's going to be a glorified test session, and I think a lot of people were already predicting that it wasn't going to be exactly exciting. Again, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, we haven't seen a Clash on the road course, but I do fear that any hope that this was going to be as wild as people want it to be, it has now flown out of the chicken coop, because unless they change the track or change the package versus what they're going to run just a couple weeks from the Clash at Daytona, I would have to think that this is probably going to turn into yet again another professional test session for the Cup Series. Again, we'll have to wait and see, but if you were hoping for a good Clash next year, looks like that may not take place. And finally, major story for the Indianapolis 500, and something that I speculated would happen, and by golly, it came to pass. Juan Pablo Montoya will drive the third Aero McLaren SP car at the 105th running of the Indianapolis 500, currently slated for May of 2021. We'll have to see where that ends up in the next couple of months, but this is very exciting. Two-time winner of the Indianapolis 500, and he's only been on two other teams, those being Ganassi and Penske. And if we remember correctly, in his first attempt with Ganassi, he won. In his second attempt with Penske, he won. Juan Pablo Montoya, 100% a threat for victory, and don't you friggin' forget it. And like I said, this is something I've been speculating for months on. It just seemed like such a great fit for McLaren and for Juan Pablo Montoya. Obviously, he's driven for them in Formula One before. And I wish I would have continued to listen to my gut, because I did have someone say, hey, Santino Ferrucci's in the picture here. And that was really the first any kind of hint that I had gotten that anybody was going to go into that seat in a legitimate sense. And I thought, okay, well, I'll put that in the video where I was talking about the IndyCar silly season. Well, as it turns out, the very next day, the thing that I'd been speculating about ends up coming to pass. So sometimes you got to trust your gut and your brain, maybe rather than the things you hear. But I think this is, again, this is the perfect move for McLaren. This is exactly, it checks all of the boxes. I've begun calling Zach Brown Hollywood Brown, and the reason I call him that is because he really likes the big headline, the major headlining race car driver. So for Montoya, he checks all the boxes. First of all, massive European name. The people in Europe know that Juan Pablo Montoya has driven for McLaren in the past. He's driven in Formula One in the past. He might have, in the right circumstance, he absolutely would have been a world champion. He's obviously a kart champion, two-time Indy 500 winner. The pedigree is out the roof. Here's another interesting thing. Juan Pablo Montoya is only one race away from winning the Triple Crown. He needs to win the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Fernando Alonso needs to win the Indianapolis 500, but I think it's interesting that McLaren still hasn't gotten away from a driver that is in the Triple Crown discussion. It's just Montoya needs to win a different race rather than Alonso. So we're keeping some consistency there. You also have, again, it's a great situation for Zach Brown and McLaren and Schmidt, because you have two young drivers with Pato O'Ward and Felix Rosenqvist. Bringing Montoya in there brings a lot of experience. He's definitely a winner. And again, you look how fast those McLaren cars were last year, especially at the Indianapolis 500, and especially in the hands of Pato O'Ward. Montoya is not going to be running at the back. I would be very surprised if he does. I think with the engineering help of Craig Hampson, who was so good at Newman Haas and then at Dale Coyne Racing, I think this is a very, very exciting prospect here. Especially the fact that it was announced so early. That means they are going to be well prepared to head into Indianapolis with this particular program. I think a lot of other people... Well, okay, so I guess we'll talk about what I kind of hinted at a little bit in the video yesterday, which is a fifth Penske car. Apparently, according to my sources, and this was a source that I trust, Penske is preparing a fifth car for the Indianapolis 500. One of the people I thought would be a great fit there, or I guess I was thinking, well, who could have possibly gone into that seat? Well, Montoya would be one of those people I would have thought about. So the fact that he's been eliminated from that conversation begins to make me really scratch my head and start to think, okay, what possibly or who possibly could compel Roger Penske to enter another car into the Indianapolis 500? Then I start to think it's probably somebody big. And I'll probably have more thoughts on this. I haven't totally defined this thought yet, but I figure I'll throw it out there because there's one name that I keep hitting on, and it won't go away, but I'll talk about that in a later video. I'm planning on doing an update to the Indy 500 entry list, and I'll talk about it then because I want to flesh it out a little bit more and see if I can get a little more information on this. As you can imagine, the Penske stuff is very tight-lipped. The McLaren stuff was actually very tight-lipped, if you can believe it. But again, I think Montoya is going to be quite a threat to win the race in this particular car. And boy, oh boy, we thought Fred's face at the end getting bumped was interesting. What happens if Montoya goes out and wins the Indy 500 in Alonso's former ride? That would be a sight to behold. The memes would be dank, and it would be a glorious day. I'm excited for the Indy 500 this year. Of course, I would have said that last year, and we saw how that turned out, didn't we? But it looks like, and I should give the Penske Corporation a lot of credit here. It looks like they are instilling a lot of confidence in car owners. It looks like there is going to be, for sure, bumping next year. Unless there's another pandemic, another shutdown, or whatever. It looks like as many as 38, 37 cars could be going for the 33 spots. There's so much experience in the field. That's something that I remember seeing Nathan Brown talking about on Twitter. Tony Kanaan, Scott Dixon, Elio Castroneves, Takuma Sato, multiple Indy 500 winners in the field. It's going to be a barn burner. It's going to be exciting. This is a deep field. It looks like we're coming into not only for the Indy 500, but for the IndyCar in general for the season. I can't wait. So, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube. Subscribe for more motorsport content. Let me know what you think of anything I talked about in this video down in the comment section below. That is what it's for. And subscribe for more motorsport content. I'll see you in the next video.